It's a very, very lovely morning, and we would like to welcome all of you, our dear viewers, for tuning in to our great show that discusses nothing but the best of football in Zambia as well as on the African continent. I'm your host this morning. My name is Robson, and I'm not alone in the studio this morning with my very, very good friend, Juan Augustine, my young man whose CAFO team tournament Red Arrows did a fantastic job. Good morning and welcome to the show, Augustine.
Good morning, and Robson, and good morning to our viewers out there. I return all the glory and honor to the Most High God. It's good to see you again after you spend your weekend at Showgrounds. Well, at least I was at Nkoloma Stadium.
It was a very, very busy weekend, and you know, it's a situation where duty calls, and we just needed to cover quite a bit of things. And first things first.
You did well. You did well to cover, to go to the Showgrounds rather than be at Hero Stadium and see what a certain Chipolopolo.
You know, fortunately enough, I had enough time to go and watch that game, and what I saw there was very, very disappointing, our dear viewers. Zambia has been knocked out of that CHAN qualifiers, and the winners, Mozambique on the day, will be taking on Malawi in the last stage of the qualifiers before the tournament. Let's begin by looking at that very, very briefly, Augustine. What is your take about the game itself before we come to the substitutions?
I think if you look at the way Zambia played against Mozambique, you would realize that most of our local players are very, very raw, and the stage was very, very big for most of the players. They couldn't come to the party. We were all over the place. I think every player just cared about his performance and not about the teammates, not about the team. It was an okay performance for some of the players, but an okay performance, is it good for an international stage like the CHAN? And if you saw the lineup, I think I questioned the starting of Patrick Gondwe. You saw Patrick Gondwe starting in the game, was it against Senegal? One of the games at the COSAFA was against Senegal, and the boy didn't turn up. When he came on as substitutes during the COSAFA tournament, you saw the impact. So does the coach know his players? That was my question. Because if we would have started probably with Yusuf Saddam in central midfield, so that you try just have control of the game, and then when we reach probably the second half, we now try to attack the game, bring in Patrick Gondwe, who has got the driving force and the legs. Every time he comes from the bench, he gives us a very, very good option to try and be creative. I think I was very, very disappointed with the Chipolopolo performance. No one stood up, no one turned up for that game. It was very, very horrific to watch.
To our dear viewers who are joining us, we'll get into those details of the CHAN game that took place at Hero Stadium on Saturday. But this morning, again, I would like to urge all of you that are watching us live on TV, those who are probably not watching us live on TV, you can also catch us on Camnet TV, on our Facebook page on Camnet TV. Follow us there and pass your comments there, and we'll be able to share them with you right here, right now. And we'll talk more about the CHAN qualifiers as well as the 14 tournament that took place at Nkoloma Stadium, as well as the one that is currently going on in Kitwe at Arthur Davis Stadium, where there are 4 teams preparing for the coming season. For now, we'll take a very, very short break, and on the other side, we'll give you more details of what has been happening in the world of football. For now.
Water is life. Each drop counts, and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. Renglow, your smart irrigation partner.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
Kisoji.
Very, very wonderful, lovely morning, and welcome back to the show that gives you nothing but the best of football. And now in the studio we are joined by our colleague who's been with us for a bit and he remains part of our family. Julius, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Robson. Thank you very much for having me. It's good to be here. I think it's been, if not close to 2 months, that I've missed, but it's good to be back home. I call this place home, and it's good to be here. But of course, most importantly, Robson, we give glory to God for giving us this opportunity to be here and discuss nothing but the very best in as far as football is concerned. And it's good to be with you and my brother Augustine.
No, thank you so much. Augustine, let's pick it up from there. We started by discussing the exit of the Zambia national soccer team from the CHAN qualifiers, where we were humbly knocked out by Mozambique at our own home turf after drawing away from home. A lot of us had hoped that a draw away from home would probably give us something very, very different to talk about when we come back home. But there we were cheating ourselves. The Mozambicans, they held on in the first 20 minutes. They managed to contain the pressure, and I could see what their target was. You saw their goalkeeper busy falling after pressure until he got substituted. They would manage the game very well, if you ask me. Tactically, I think, in as much as I was watching that game as a Zambian and hoping that Zambia would qualify, I think tactically the Mozambicans were more organized and achieved what they came for. Julius, I'll start with you before Augustine continues. Did you take time to watch the game, or you were busy in the showgrounds where you were buying candy floss for yourself?
and painting my face instead of going to yours and being embarrassed like that. But anyway, first of all, Robson, to start with, that's a very disappointing result, especially that we had to share points in Mozambique, and coming back home, we just decide to lose. I think for me, our biggest weakness in that game, Robson, is our striking force. Our striking force really killed us. You cannot have a striker that was a top scorer in the last season, 16 goals to his name, Robson, and he plays in that game against Mozambique, no shot on target. Then we have problems. A striker who was top scorer in the last season, you bring him in the game, they don't have a shot on target.
But let's
have a big problem.
Let's look at the link play, Augustine. Julius is talking about one Ricky Bandara not having a shot on target in that particular game. But I think for me, let's look at the creativity. What is his job? He's a stockman, he's a striker, but if he's not going to have the service from the midfield, what do you expect him to do, Augustine? From your own perspective, for me, I think I watched that game and I could see that service was not being delivered to him. We had a couple of flashes on the left side of the wing where Kelvin Kampamba was, and he threw in quite a couple of set pieces. But for Ricky Banda to have a shot on target, I think I beg to differ with what Julius is saying, because I couldn't see the service where the ball gets to him, he turns around and fails to do what he knows to do with the ball. I don't know what your view is.
I think well, if you look at the way we performed against Mozambique, I think the only positive part I saw in the game was the first 1 minute when we started possession. Alan Kapila with a crossfield pass to Kelvin Kampamba with a very, very good cross, which Albert Kangwanda and Ricky Banda failed to communicate, and Albert Kangwanda failed to hit the target. That was the only positivity I got from that entire 90 minutes. If you look at Joshua Mutale, yes, he's a very, very good and promising young lad. He'll dribble one, dribble twice, and then he loses possession. Most times it happened, a lot of times in that game. Patrick Gonde, likewise, those two are probably the ones that were supposed to be creating for Kangwanda and Ricky Banda, but they never did that. Kelvin Kampamba Mwanga, there wasn't any consistency in his performances. He would dribble one, then the next move he loses possession. I think, to me, like you have said, spot on, there was no clear-cut pass which Albert Kangwanda or Ricky Banda fluffed in that game. They never had service, but having said that, they could do a lot better. They could be more involved in the game with regards with their performances, Ricky Banda and Albert Kangwanda. There are some fine details whereby they could have done basics, but they didn't do that to try and open up spaces. We saw a couple of times, every time when attacking midfielders were on top of the Mozambique box. They opted to shoot, and most of the times it was going off target. Probably they would have picked a Ricky Banda, picked an Albert Kangwanda to try and open up Mozambique, but we never did that. What I picked from the entire game is that our coaches never had a game plan against Mozambique. Mozambique had a game plan against us, because when we played the first game in Mozambique, we would have known how they play, their strength, their weaknesses, but we never knew anything about the Mozambique. If you notice, Uncle Robson, the captain who was playing on the left back position, he was very, very intelligent, one of the most intelligent players I've seen come to play at Hero Stadium. Every time when they are in possession of the ball, he would play like a Guardiola fullback, he would go in central midfield and start dictating play from that. And me, looking from the outside, I thought that's the space we could have exploited, because every time when they lose possession in Mozambique, we could attack from that side, but I never saw the coach pick that up, because they could have just taught Albert Kangwanda, just had the touchline, because this guy is going in central midfield, had the touchline, and when you have the ball in central midfield, we do not start dribbling. Let's find Albert Kangwanda in the wide area so that we attack from there. They packed the midfield, and our midfield was nowhere to be seen. They were very, very disjointed on the day. Kapumbu, I think, to me, is one of the biggest disappointments from that game. You would expect a player of his magnitude to control games of such nature against Mozambique at Hero Stadium, but he never dictated play. He's a deep line attacker, and if he's not getting on the border like we would love, then we cannot create, because he's not eliminating anyone. He's not giving them any problems. Because truth be told, those guys never bothered us defensively. That's why Alan Kapila and Dominic Chanda had a very good game. They never had to worry about their defensive duties. All they needed to do was to try and build position from the back for us. Charles Karumba, did he have any save to make? Except from the just picking the ball in there, nothing. So you could see they never attacked us
we never felt consistent.
Exactly.
Especially in the
I think the person I was sitting to, I talked to them and I said when King Lao comes in, these guys will go for it, because King Lao is their talisman. He's their wonder kid, and immediately when he was introduced, you would see now they are the threat up front, and eventually they scored from there. And our coach, I think, to me, he didn't read the game very well. When the game was calling to be changed by the coach,
let's look at the substitutions. Really, you are coming to a very, very good point. When we were under pressure, when we conceded a goal we conceded one, and he needed to make those substitutions. One substitution which caught me by surprise was where he took on Prosper Chiruya
for Kelvin Kampamba.
What was he trying to achieve?
That was trying to. All I saw from that substitution was frustration. Because what happened was we were in possession of the ball, and Kelvin Kampamba had possession of the ball just on the halfway line, and he lost possession. Immediately after Kelvin Kampamba lost possession, what did the coach do? He turned and called for the substitutions, and the Mozambicans bailed from that and then they went and scored. It was out of frustration, because Kelvin Kampamba had started losing the ball during the game, and you would see that he was tired, because he had a lot of balls to work with, a lot of
most of the runs were coming from him.
I think there was a time when we reached probably the second half. You would see that that game was calling for a Prosper Chiruya on the right side of defense, not right side of not the left side of midfield, which the coach went on. He brought him as the left-sided midfielder, because you would see James Chamanga getting into attacking areas and Benedict Chepeshi, but not doing enough when they went into the final third. I think, to me, they were a bit wasteful, especially Chamanga. He went into, I think, a couple of times into the box when he started dribbling. You remember one of the incidents in the second half. Probably would have thought Prosper Chiruya can come in and bring a different dimension at that point. He would have made that substitution a little bit earlier.
For me, even Chamanga on the day was very wasteful. You know, he was, what we call Chidunu football. Every time he starts from the back, whenever he has the ball, the first thing he was looking for is the guys who are beyond the midfield.
He wanted to make the most difficult pass.
On a lot of opportunities that he had with the ball, he never made use of it properly. And I saw where the problem was. I'm like, so this left back guy wants to be kicking the ball beyond the midfielders. It goes to the most difficult area, where you have one player in Ricky Banda being supported by the two wingers. And now the essence of the midfield, becomes irrelevant, because
Exactly.
it's like now you are saying, I'm going to hit the ball over you. When it starts coming back, you only have a duty to come and defend and try and stop playing the midfield, which becomes very, very difficult for a midfielder to do their job.
Yeah, and we kept playing Chamanga. Every time we start position, we take it to Chamanga. And then it goes long. I think, to me, I didn't understand what he was trying to do, what the coach was trying to achieve, and the coach didn't look to be upset with what Chamanga was doing, because probably that was the instruction. And one of the most disappointing the most disappointing thing I got from the entire game against Mozambique was the press briefing. I think, to me, I was very, very disappointed with the way the coach came out. He was trying to fight the media. All he wanted was him to explain what he was trying to do on the game. And he came there, he started saying, I've been with these guys for 1 month. You were not there. You didn't know what was happening.
We saw what
happened. We saw what happened in the field of play. Even if we were not there in the camp, we saw what happened in the field of play. There was a lot of disjoint performances from Chipolopolo, and he's the one who is in charge. He needs to take responsibility and be apologetic rather than come and start fighting the press who are asking him simple questions so that he can just.
So there were very difficult questions in the circumstances he was in. But he didn't have the answers.
He would have just pointed out that we have had 5 games and we just lost 1. There's progress and we move on. Okay, we are shifting our focus now. All said and done about the national soccer team, and we can only wish them all the best in the upcoming games. Whenever they will come, there was an adjournment. I think some games have been postponed. They've been moved to March next year. And we can only wish Ayosa and his boys all the best for his future endeavors. And thanks to whoever has been instrumental in sending our players into Europe. We've got the latest player who's gone to Europe, who's Albert Kangwanda, who's joined a Croatian side. And hopefully the experience that they are going to end from there with Prince Mumbai in Croatia, plus many other professionals, especially the breaking news that we'll be talking about one Zambian player who's going to be plying his trade in Syria this particular season. Let's come back to Zambia before we go to the professionals that are plying their trade outside Zambia. We recently had a 4-team tournament at Nkoloma Stadium, and as usual, the league champions stamped their authority over the 3 other teams that were participating. We had Sensational Zanaco, we had Zesco United, and we had Green Eagles participating. Lastly, but not the least, the champions of that 4-team tournament, Red Arrows, went unbeaten throughout the tournament. But let's start from Zanaco Football Club, gentlemen. What is happening to Zanaco Football Club? They participated in that 4-team tournament without scoring not even a single goal. They lost all their 3 games. What is in for Kelvin Kayundu, you who's a sympathizer of such small teams? Yes.
Rapton.
Yes.
I followed the tournament very closely, and I was privileged to hear Kayundu give a post-match interview after I think the last game, and all he said was, "We are not a bad team." My question is,
and
what do you mean you're not a bad team? And then he says, in as much as we've lost, games and what, and we were the last in this tournament, we are still not a bad. I'm asking myself, Coach, are you being realistic right now? Because I can assure you this. I don't see Kayundu staying at Zanaco. That I can assure you. You will come and tell me. I don't see Kayundu staying at Zanaco because already, look, I haven't seen any replacements when it comes to replacing the players that they've lost. They've lost Moses Piri, who was very instrumental for them. They have lost Kelvin Kapumbu to Zesco United. They have also lost other players, but we haven't seen them bring in new players. Somebody was telling me, no, they've bought these Congolese strikers. We haven't seen them. They participated in the tournament. After participating in the tournament, they had to fly to Tanzania to also play some friendly games there. Already they played 1 game, they lost. A team that is not bad.
And you heard his comment after losing in Tanzania? Similar to what he said.
And then those strikers from Congo haven't come.
So now you
have a coach who is saying we are not bad. Really?
The problem I have there, Augustine, is that Sensational Zanaco is more like home for me. That's home for me. That's a very nice football team, and it's close to my heart. Too many friends in administration there, and I think when it comes to calling a situation the way it's supposed to be called, I think this is the time when Sensational Zanaco have to come out of that shell and accept that things are not well for them. In pre-season, they've been very bad. And I'm not too sure if it's the choice of words that Coach Kelvin Kahindo uses. I'm not too sure whether it's premeditated, where you just know that after a game, this is what I should say, or you give a post-match interview according to the circumstances and the results of the match. But clearly for me, that was like a recorded version of a response where you've had some good games in the past and now you get a bad result and you're like, we're not a bad team. But here is a guy who has lost 3 consecutive games in a space of 4 days.
You know, he's behaving like Chisimbewe. He's behaving as though Zanaco was a team that finished top in that tournament.
Or he's behaving like the way Chisi should be behaving.
Exactly. And Robson, like you are saying, if you say what is the problem with Zanaco, let's be realistic. Zanaco have made a few changes to their Exco and also technical bench. Look, they have brought in a new. They've got a new TT. They've got to think a new. Is it?
Who's their technical director?
Team manager.
Who's their technical director?
Enano Munaire.
When was he last involved in football?
No, those questions can only be answered by Zanaco themselves. But what I'm saying, Robson, is they have brought in a few people, Augustine, to their Exco. So we expect them to perform way better than they did perform last season. But they've lost, like I said, they lost Moses Piri, they lost Kelvin Kapumbu, they've lost Sambalungu. Sambalungu has now joined City of Lusaka. We haven't seen new players coming in. Really, if Zanaco is going to finish in the top 4 this coming season,
oh, you mean upside down?
They now But then also quickly commenting before Augustine comes in, quickly commenting on really what really is wrong with Kelvin Kahindo. I'm now thinking, Robson, maybe it's because, you know, he's a man of God, by the way. Maybe, you know how spiritual people are. They take things, you know, so casual, you know, so maybe the man of God has received a revelation from God that don't worry, you might lose, but I can see you finishing in the top 4. So anyway, let's see how it's going to unfold. But looking at the tournament that was organized by Red Arrows and Zesco United, I expected Zanaco at least to even win a single game. But them not winning a single game, and that is a big team, Robson, we're talking about. Really, I don't see Kelvin Kahindo staying at Zanaco this coming season.
Augustine, let's focus on the games that were played at Nkoloma Stadium. Red Arrows emerging victorious in that 4-team tournament. When you look at a team that is representing Zambia at continental level and their preparation so far, what is your take about the players that have come in? Because I saw him in the last game. Chisimbewe was very, very courageous enough. We saw that Brazilian guy coming into that game and scoring that winning goal in the last match. And when you look at how prepared you are, I'm beginning to get convinced that Chisimbewe is doing a very, very fantastic job, because even with change of personnel, he still managed to get a very, very positive result in the last game. What is your view about how prepared the team is getting even before the start of the league? Because next weekend they are facing Napsa Stars in that Charity Shield opener.
I think we have to say Red Arrows management did very well to try and sign the players on time, to bring in all the right players, all the targets that the coaches had on time, so that they gel together as a team as they go into the start of the season. And this 4 teams tournament has helped Red Arrows know where they are as a team, and to try and get to know each other even better. If you saw, there are still some grey areas, there are still some areas that need improvement. Even Chisimbewe himself talked about that in his one of his press conferences during the 4 teams tournament, and he's brought in experience. Like Makwekwe, he's a seasoned campaigner in the Congo League, and he's played continental football before, so he brings that vast experience to Red Arrows. And they've brought in youth who have got the energy and the enthusiasm to try and impress. You look at Kefas Handaf, I think to me is going to push Chepeshi very, very hard, because he has been very, very impressive during this 4 teams tournament. If you watch Red Arrows, Thomas Zulu, exception in central midfield, is going to be that guy who is going to bring in the physical presence, the calmness when you're in possession of the ball. So Red Arrows look like a team that have improved from where they were last season, even with the losing of Alassane Diarra, Ali Dokaembe, and Trezor Shibwabwa. So what you get from Red Arrows is the cohesiveness. There's the team unit. There's the togetherness, which is making them look better. And Chisimbe understands his boys and knows what they can deliver, and they know what the coach expects from them. Red Arrows look very, very prepared. Same like Zesco United. I think I was impressed with Zesco United with their performance during this 4-team tournament. You would have in mind that Zesco United and Red Arrows didn't have their national team players who are playing in the Chan and the Kosafa during this tournament. So when those guys come to join camp, I think to me it would be an advantage for both teams. I think I was impressed with one Chipioka Songa. The boy, I think to me, I felt the move to Zesco United was going to be very, very big for the young lad. But seeing what he did at the 4-team tournament, you would realize that this boy is a pure talent and is destined for greatness. Another team which was in the tournament was Green Eagles. They look okay. I think to me they look like the usual Green Eagles. They are very, very hard to beat.
Green Eagles is very hard to beat. But when you look at the collection of the 10 new signees that they have now, when you look at the value of those players, really, I am beginning to question the caliber of the players they've signed if they are going to add that much needed value in the team. Yeah. Yes, you can have depth. You're trying to create depth in the team. You sign in 10 new players from lower leagues, and now you bring them to that level, hoping that they'll, because for me I'm thinking these guys should have been brought in to come and create competition to the existing players. But this is a team that you recruit 10, and probably those 10 even fighting for their first team places is actually not even almost guaranteed. It's not there. But this is a team that Coach Agre wants to build and raise to the level where they were. Because remember that they are missing out on CAF because of the 4 slots, but clearly they had a very, very good run in the race to the top 4 last season. But let's look at Green Eagles' participation in that particular 4-team tournament. What is your take about the players that they have acquired and how they actually performed in that particular tournament?
I think for the players that have come through, I think you would see that some of these players are not really up for the task, especially those that have come from the lower leagues. I think they are just decent players, and they wouldn't come and push the guys that were already in the Green Eagles starting 11. You remember Banda. He didn't have a lot of game time at GBFC. He's trying to get back his form and his fitness. We wait to see. It would probably take him 4 to 5 games to try and get up to speed with the levels of high intensity football which Green Eagles play. Green Eagles are a very, very aggressive side. They work very hard. They outrun opponents, and we expect to see them do the same this season because they haven't changed much of their team. They haven't released key players. Defensively, they look very, very solid. I think I'm impressed with one Shapich Kondinjovu, the young centre back. He's growing to be one of the biggest assets that Zambia will have. He will be one of those centre backs that will grace the Chipolopolo setup because he's probably physical, his built is more like a Stopira Sunzu. He's one to look out for the future. But what worries me most about this Green Eagle side is going forward. They do not look like they've got a lot of goals in them. They have got Derek Mwasawulaya. He'll get 6 goals most. They have got Simon Mulenga. You saw at Ghana, he scored about 4 goals in one game, was it? Then what did he do after that? He went lost. So he'll get you about 6 goals again. Emmanuel Mwamba, who was at Konkola Blades, he will probably get you the same number of goals, but will it be enough to see you get back into continental football? I don't think so.
Very quickly, Zesco United. Zesco United is a participation in that 4-team tournament. How prepared are they for the upcoming tasks?
They look good. They look good, Zesco United, especially that they have strengthened probably in the attacking areas. I saw more play and they have given him a 2-year contract, but I wasn't very much convinced with his performance. He looked like he's someone who can get back to those levels that we know him. But Chipioka Songa is one to look out for. That I think to me that was one of the best signings Zesco United made during this window. Rodrick Kembo did very well at centre back when he played alongside. So you can see that now we have created competition at that centre half position with the coming in of Rodrick Kembo. He gives competition to Adrian Chama, Solomon Sakala, and Clement Mwape, who was once a favourites when it comes to Zambian football, but I think Zesco United will do okay. Probably Red Arrows and Zesco United will go toe-to-toe again for the title. I do not think there is another team which can challenge these two.
Augustine,
Nkana
is a big
Augustine,
team.
Augustine,
oh, by the way, we have chicken in the coming season.
I'm wondering why one of us here is not commenting, because last season when Cabo Warriors, when a team from Cabo played Lusaka Dynamos, there was a young man who was playing for Lusaka Dynamos last season who terrorized the Cabo Warriors defense. So I'm wondering that one of us here is not talking about that young man, because apparently that young man has moved and is now on the Copper Belt.
Yes.
So I'm wondering why one of us here is not talking about that young man.
Let's
looking forward to how he's going to terrorize those defenders.
Let's shift our focus now to the 4-team tournament that is taking place in Kitwe at Arthur Davis Stadium. Yesterday we saw a very, very tough game. Two games actually took place. Forest Rangers had the first game, I think their first game of the 4-team tournament. They played against Nchanga Rangers and emerged victorious by winning 2-1. We saw the return of Pedro Miguel at Nchanga Rangers, and he managed to pull one back for Nchanga Rangers as they prepare for the upcoming season in the top flight soccer. Your views about that game, Forest Rangers beating Nchanga Rangers in that preseason game?
I think one positive thing from Forest Rangers is that Gerard Simusokwe, the young promising centre back, was back. He had a very, very terrible injury. He was back. He's back in preseason. He looks very, very good for the start of the season. But what I see from Forest Rangers is a team that will struggle up front. They do not have a lot of quality going forward. They've lost Quadricola. His contract came to an end. Then he's moved now to Angola. He's not a kind of player who will be easily replaced by Forest Rangers. He was always that guy who gave them the width, the power play. I think to me they're really going to miss Quadricola. They need to do something in the transfer market. Forest Rangers, they have been very, very silent with their business. They haven't been brought in a lot of players, which worries me the most, because Forest Rangers they had scored a good number of goals, but not good enough. Defensively, they leaked in as much as they scored. So you fear for Forest Rangers going into the coming season. But Nchanga Rangers, it was a very, very good test playing against Forest Rangers. Pedro Miguel scoring from the penalty spot. We hope he will find a home in Chingola and try and keep them up.
Going back to the same house he was living in.
He struggled at Zesco United, and but Nchanga Rangers have brought in players like Mushindu to try and help them with the experience of the Premier League. They brought in players like Logi Chingandu. He's got the experience of playing continental football. Probably will be that guy who will be the leader in that Nchanga Rangers dressing room, and try and see them stay up this season.
We saw the second game that had Power Dynamos beating Prison Leopards by 2-1. One of my favorite midfielders in Frederick Mulambia and Kennedy Msonda were the scorers for Power Dynamos. Let's look at the coaching badges that have been added by this Chipepo coach, and now the preparations are looking very positive when you see Power Dynamos. Are we going to see that rivalry between Power Dynamos coming in against Nkana Football Club in this season? When you see how they've been preparing in that game, Power Dynamos managed to beat Prison Leopards by 2-1. Remember, Prison Leopards have lost Conrad Luchanga to Red Arrows, and they really need to find somebody who's going to have that aerial presence in that box, which has been left by the young Conrad Luchanga.
Well, if we're going to talk about the El Copala Derby...
No, we're talking about the 4-team tournament.
You did talk about that.
It's a 4-team tournament.
You did talk about
At this point, it's Power Dynamos.
You did talk about that. You said, are they going to manage? So let's talk about that. Let's not beat about the bush here. Quickly, for me, I've always had a soft spot for Abayelo, Rapson. And I know that obviously Kana can upset them at times, but I do have a soft spot. And if we're going to talk about the El Copala Derby, I see Power Dynamos doing a double. But quickly, talking about some of the players that Power Dynamos have brought in, remember that they've brought in former Concola Blades captain, that's Owen. He's a brilliant player. I've had some time to watch him. That's a very good signing in as far as Power Dynamos is concerned, signing some of a few players. They've also brought in, I think, about 3 players from their young Power Dynamos team, their academy. And to me, they look a little bit prepared, but not very prepared, of course, because Power Dynamos has always had these good players. Frederick Mulambia, Kennedy Musonda. For me, those are one of the best players that Power Dynamos has at the moment. And also, if you look at Godfrey Ngwenya, but we haven't really seen them bring in a lethal striker that can really be a clinical finisher. For me, that's what they're missing. They really need somebody who can finish on the goal for them. If really they have to finish in the top 4, of which they did not last season, really, especially that they have Mwenya Chipepo, who's one of the best coaches in the land. With coming in of Owen in the midfield, what they just needed, like I said, Robson, is to have a clinical finisher. If they can bring in a clinical finisher, then trust me, they're good to go and they'll perform better than they did last season. But quickly looking at Prison Leopards, they've just not only lost Conrad Luchanga, they've also lost someone from the technical bench. They've lost Humphrey Malikoni, who's gone back to Cabo Warriors, his home team. I don't really know why he actually left Prison Leopards when he was doing well at Prison Leopards and he decided to join Chicken George London at Cabo Warriors. But anyway, let's see how it's going to unfold for Cabo Warriors. But also Prison Leopards, I haven't seen them go on a shopping spree for buying new players. I haven't seen them bring in new players. I haven't seen them bring in a replacement for Conrad Luchanga. So really, I don't see them really performing better than they did perform last season. If they don't really reinforce their squad, they might even fight relegation come this season. Sorry, I'm not being harsh on them, but I'm just being realistic.
Augustine, your views about the second match?
Yeah, I think Power Dynamos, a lot is expected from Power Dynamos. They have been a sleeping giant for quite a while now. They have missed on the biggest stage of African football, the continental showpiece. They haven't been there for a while now. They need to put their house in order and get back to continental football. The signing of Owen Tembo brings that solidity in midfield, the control that Power Dynamos love to have in football games. And with that Mwanza, they have had goalkeeping situations. Power Dynamos, they brought in Sebastian Mwange. He hasn't lived up to expectation. Now they've gone and brought Willard. He will bring that competition to Lawrence Mulenga, push each other. But up front, that's where they're worrying Power Dynamos. They brought in Brian Miller halfway through the season, but he has struggled. He's found the net just once.
He's like the move that we talked about when who's this guy, the one who joined Forest Rangers?
Bono. Exactly. I think to me they need to try and find someone who will be getting them goals. Power Dynamos. Yes, I think towards the last of the end of last season, we saw Tranquilin Kalonjimwe come in and scored those spectacular goals to win some vital points for Power Dynamos. But this is a very good preparation for all the 4 teams leading up to the season that we are about to start. Players are now getting back to their full fitness, and we hope to have a very, very good season come next year.
Those of you who are on the Copper Belt, please find your way to Arthur Davis Stadium to go and witness the 2 games that will be taking place this afternoon. We'll have the first game that will involve Nchanga Rangers and Prison Leopards at 13 hours, and the second game will have Power Dynamos facing Forest Rangers at 15 hours. Gentlemen, Zambia has been noticed by FIFA. Of course, not the men's side, the women's side. They've jumped 23 places from 103 to 80 in the world, and now they are ranked 10th on the continent of Africa after that splendid performance. And it can go unnoticed, gentlemen, and congratulations to Bruce Mwape, the FARS executive, and the entire women's football team for making us proud and moving to that 10th slot on the African continent. Congratulations to all of you from Camnet TV. We love you for making the nation proud, and we just hope that the men can replicate that kind of performance.
I think just on the rankings, I think personally I'm disappointed. I can't lie.
It's a great stride, but they should have ranked them better.
How do they do these rankings? I think to me I've got my own reservations. How do FIFA do their rankings? How can Zambia be number 10? The only team that qualified to the Olympics. Okay?
Yes.
The only African team to qualify to the Olympics. The team that finished third in this edition of the Africa Cup, how do we find ourselves number 10? How do we find ourselves behind Ghana, who are not part of the tournament? How do we find ourselves behind Algeria, who are not part of the tournament? I think to me it's a big joke I think to me these rankings, I think to me I don't care much about the rankings. All I care is that the Chipolopolo are going to are the third best team in Africa. It showed on the biggest showpiece at the African stage. I think to me, CAF and FIFA can keep their rankings. We are not number 10 in Africa, we are number 3.
I totally agree with you when it comes to that. And for me, what I'm just appreciating is the fact that the recognition has been there.
There's no recognition here.
We used to be 103.
But we have done better. They saw it. Why can't they give us what we really deserve?
That is a question.
That's why they have been keeping Belgium number 1 in men's football, number 1 for so many years without winning anything. But Belgium is number 1. How do they do their rankings? I think to me they're pure
But
joke.
I'm not just talking about international recognition. I think it's also important to quickly talk about the local recognition. Remember that the Zambia Army Commanders a few days ago did promote some of the few players who were part of the WAFCON team.
So that should give comfort to
and
the
then
two of
also,
you.
is it yesterday or the other day, the
Zambia Air Force?
Including Zambia Police.
That's
yes,
a
yes,
very,
yes, yes, yes.
I think to me it's
Actually,
comfort for us. Yeah.
Did he promote or he's given employment to about 4 of the players? That's Margaret Belemu and the other and the other 3. And also we also saw the Inspector General of Police actually also promote the assistant coach. So really, I think it's a good
recognition.
Recognition is important. Even Ministry of Education has promoted the assistant to a deputy head, to a position of the deputy head
assistant
teacher.
coach.
Yeah. So
and also the Chingola Municipal Council has offered land
brought
3.
Of course, 3 of their own.
That coming from Chingola. So
No,
really
that still goes to appreciate that everybody else across the country from all walks of life are appreciating what the ladies team has done.
Yeah.
And we can only wish them all the best, even as they focus on the World Cup that will be held in Australia and New Zealand next year. And for now, gentlemen, let's look at our players plying their trade abroad before we come to the European leagues that probably were flagged last night, and more are being flagged this afternoon. Let's look at Albert Kangwanda's move to Croatia. Great move for me, if you ask me. He's joining Gorica, and that is a team that is plying its trade in the Premier League, in the top flight football of Croatia. And for me, he joins Prince Mwape in that particular league, and we'll have 2 Zambian players who are getting more experience. Of course, for me, that gives me comfort that they will learn 1 or 2 new things from there, and once they are called to the national team, value addition is going to be on the positive side of things.
Yeah, I think it all started with Peter Shkola. Peter Shkola was initially launched to Red Arrows together with Albert Kangwanda, but there was a move from Croatia which came through, and Albert Kangwanda has gone on a permanent to Croatia, where Peter Shkola is. Peter Shkola is there on trials, and Albert Kangwanda went and signed a permanent deal, but is going to be loaned out to a 2nd division team to try and acclimatize to European football, so that but he will be, I think the most interesting part is that Albert Kangwanda will be registered in both league by both teams. If the parent club decides to call Albert Kangwanda to play for them in the main league, if he does well in the 2nd tier, he will be called to the first team to play in the main league. And you've seen Prince Mumba. Prince Mumba had a couple of opportunities. One notably was Glasgow Rangers of Scotland, where Fashion Sakala plays. He was there. He was offered to go there on trials, which probably the representatives of Prince Mumba felt a permanent move or an outright purchase was good for Prince Mumba, which he signed a contract extension at Warriors, and then he went on loan to Croatia. It's very, very good for Zambian football to try and have a lot of young players playing their trade in Europe. Kangwanda, he had a very, very good season at Kafue Celtic. You remember his first stint at Zanaco didn't end very well. He was very, very poor during that time at Zanaco, but he has grown now. He's taking up a lot of responsibility, and he will be a very, very good asset for the nation if he does well in Croatia.
Let's look at the latest move, Lamek Banda. This is one player that has been plying his trade in Israel, and now he has shifted to Letier, a team that is playing this season. I think they have qualified from from the lower division to now Serie A. They are moving from Serie B to Serie A, and they have signed him on a 4-year deal. What an experience that Lamek Banda is going to get in Serie A is probably unprecedented. Of course, he's not the first player to sign in the Italian league. We had one player who signed for a lower division side and probably played a couple of games there. But breaking into Serie A, this is the first Zambian that will be playing his football in the Serie A.
Very, very impressive signing for Lecce. I think the story of Lamek Banda should motivate a lot of young boys out there. Lamek Banda coming from a small place called Venta. He was playing his football for Manzi Valley, and he got spotted there from Kwazi Football Club. Kwazi Football Club under Albert Pande, who was the coach for Nkwazi. He took him to Nkwazi, gave him a platform to express his talent and showcase himself to the nation. Lamek Banda went to Nkwazi, did very well, and a move to Zesco United. He went to Zesco United, played continental football, and he moved on to town rivals Beautycon, where he played with Cleans Kangwa. They met up and the duo were signed together to go to Arsenal Tula. When he reached Arsenal Tula, I think one of the most outstanding games was their pre-season friendly against Salzburg, which he scored one of a wonderful goal against Salzburg, and he was signed on by Arsenal Tula. It didn't go very well for Arsenal Tula, for him at Arsenal Tula. Then he went to Israel on loan and then got back to Arsenal Tula, again back to Israel. He's done very well for Israel. In Israel, he scored 8 goals during the past season and a couple of assists to his name, which has earned him a move to Lecce. He had offers elsewhere from Turkey. I understand Besiktas were in for his services, but they thought Italian Serie A was very, very attractive, and he has gone there. He's very, very fearless. He's direct. He's positive. He brings that energy in attack for each and every team he plays, because he provides you with the width. He's very, very speedy, and he's a good move for the young lad. I don't know about Julius.
For me, quickly, just like you said, Raps and borrowing your words, it's really a good thing when you see our very own players going to places like Europe and getting exposed, because we know that our national team is going to really benefit. So really, it's a good move for Lamek and also Albert Kangwanda, and looking forward to Prince Mumba as well. So looking forward to them coming to play for the national team and perform way better than they actually went.
Very quickly, gentlemen, the English Premier League is back, and we saw the Gunners. By default, they always start top of the league, and in match day 1, they were the league.
You need to retract your statement. What do you mean by default?
When you look at
you didn't watch the game yesterday.
No. When you look at the table before they play the first game, they are always number 1 by virtue of their alphabetical order.
No, but I still demand you to retract your statement. Just say they played a better game and they deserve to be on top. Why are you being unfair on the?
We saw the Gunners showing what they were showing us actually in pre-season, that they really mean business. And yesterday, last night, they were hosted by Crystal Palace, and the Crystal Palace were humbled by 2-0, and the beginning of the season is back. Very quickly, let's look at the fixtures for today. At 13:30, Fulham will be facing Liverpool, Bournemouth will be facing Aston Villa, Leeds United will be hosting Wolves, Newcastle United will be hosting the new entrants, Nottingham Forest. Tottenham is hosting Southampton. Lastly, but not the least, at 18:30 we have a clash of the Titans in Everton versus Chelsea. Augustine, very quickly on those fixtures.
I think interesting enough, we want to see what Chelsea have to offer coming to this season, because they are very, very slow in the transfer market at the beginning, and it was worrying for some Chelsea fans, but they have speeded up the process. They brought in Kukurea from Brighton, they brought in Kalidou Koulibaly from Napoli, and they've signed Raheem Sterling from Man City. You would see that Chelsea mean business, and Thomas Tuchel wants to try and attack the Premier League, but playing against an Everton side who have lost Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin is a doubt going into the game against Chelsea. Chelsea look strong favourites against an Everton side which struggled last season under Lampard, and this would be one big season for Frank Lampard, because he'll be tested. They haven't done good business Everton.
Concluding the fixtures, the weekend fixtures in the English Premier League tomorrow, Leicester City will be hosting Brentford. Manchester United, big Man United, will be hosting Brighton. West Ham will be hosting Manchester City. To sum up the weekend fixtures. Gentlemen, your last remarks as we get towards the end of the show.
Thank you very much, Rapson, for having me today. It's been great coming back home. Like I said, home is home. Quickly, I know you didn't want me to talk about this, but congratulations to the Gunners for displaying such beautiful football.
Yeah, I totally agree there.
And we're looking, Augustine, I know that the Gunners are a team that people have to look forward to watching this season, and I know that if they don't finish in the top 4, then I think football is just going to be unfair on their side. But really,
winning one game, we're talking about the top 4.
I think kudos to management also for bringing in a few players. They brought in Gabriel Jesus. Apparently, Rapson, quickly, Augustine has been to Sweden before, so he knows how to pronounce the name. What's the name again?
Which one?
Zichenko.
Zichenko.
So they also brought in Zichenko. So really, the partnership of Martinelli, Bukayo Saka, and Odegaard is just going to be giving good supply to Gabriel Jesus, and he might just be the top scorer for this season. So really also, and then the other thing quickly also, Rapson, Manchester United is also going to be a team that's really going to give a tough time to most teams because the coach at
Augustine, very quickly.
I think a big thanks to the entire production team for making this show possible, and a big thanks to our viewers that tuned in to watch us. And congratulations to Cleans Kangwa for scoring on his Champions League debut. I think to me, Cleans Kangwa is destined for greatness.
Well, whatever goes up must always come down, and we come to the end of the show, and would like to thank all of you, our esteemed viewers, that were tuned in to watch this show, and we'll be back together next week, even as we focus on the league and the Charity Shield that will be taking place next weekend. Red Arrows will be hosting, or not really hosting, will be facing Napsa Stars in that league opener. Again, in the league opener, the first game of the season is Red Arrows at home, facing the same team that they will be facing in the Charity Shield, and we can only wish them all the best. And to the entire production team, would like to say thank you very much. I've been your host, Rapson. Keep watching Camnet TV, because Camnet is not just another channel. Bye, and see you next weekend.